Hello, and welcome to week 2 of Comp 1. There are lots of things to discuss today, and I'm excited to get this lecture underway. So I'm not going to waste any time talking about inane things like I usually do, just go rambling on about whatnots and this, that's. And I mean, I absolutely could, but we're going to go ahead and do screen share and find, if I can, oh, guess what? We're not going to do that just yet. We're going to do a little talking before I get this PowerPoint up and running. Interesting. Okay, so screen share, whiteboard. Am I going to have to do it? It looks like I'm going to have to do it. There we go. So now I open the PowerPoint from there, and we are in the way wrong place, but that's okay, right? It's okay. It's called learning and adjusting. I recently was having some issues with my all-in-one computer. I want to call it a desktop, but let's be honest, it's not really a desktop. And I didn't know until after I had purchased the all-in-one computer that it was a bad idea. My 26-year-old son, who's a data analyst, made sure and let me know after. He said, "Mom, had you let me know, I wouldn't have let you buy that." Oh. So I learned my lesson. The all-in-one is very cranky and does not always like to properly function. And my web camera on it is starting to go, and do all kinds of strange things. So we are using my husband's MacBook. So excited, I forgot that I had this. So we're going to jump in and we're going to start talking today about what keeps your attention in writing. Very important foundation that we need to lay before we begin to do any writing ourselves. All right. My cat thinks that he needs to talk as well. I'm sure that you can hear him. He's letting me know he's very displeased. The kitten is following him around. They'll go play in another room. They'll be fine. Well, the kitten is playing Mr. Kitty, the older cat. He's not playing. So you may hear some hissing, whatnot. They're fine. So as I was saying, we are going to be talking about what keeps your attention in writing. Very important foundation that we lay today and this week, leading into next week's material, which then leads into the following week's material. And only after we have last week done, and then weeks 2, 3, and 4, until we have those under our belt, are we even going to begin or be able to truly begin to write our literary analysis. So foundation stuff we're doing here, and I'm excited about it. So we're going to be talking about making your writing visually pleasing. We're going to talk about our formatting and a little bit about grammar. Now, please don't think, oh my gosh, it's going to be a grammar lesson. Please don't think like that. I'm going to do this in a little bit of a unique way because I like to have fun. And I hope that that is what this will be for you. And we're also going to talk a lot about using your tools. I'm going to be sharing with you a lot of tools, some that you already have and you just don't realize that you do. So we're going to walk through that together right now. So moving into the material. First thing here is our Stephen King quote for this week's material. If you want to be a writer, you must do 2 things above all others. Read a lot and write a lot. There's no other way around these 2 things that I'm aware of. No shortcut. Absolutely no shortcut. So the first thing that we're going to talk about today is MLA. MLA formatting, Modern Language Association formatting. This is something that's used in the humanities across the spectrum in college and university environments. This will be the format that those types of courses and departments will use. When you are in the sciences, the math areas, those arenas, they will be asking for APA formatting. Some history classes and some other professors that perhaps might be a little bit more old school are going to ask you for Chicago format. So it will behoove you to be able to code switch between them. However, for the purposes of this class, we're going to be using MLA. So we're going to talk here just for a few minutes briefly about MLA and my feelings on MLA. So regarding MLA, there are many websites like Al Purdue where you can access all important information needed to use correct MLA format in your essays. So simply type in MLA in a Google search and the information is out there. You will find it. So if you do a Google search of MLA or MLA format, you're going to find hundreds, if not thousands, of resources. I remind you that you live in the age of the internet and you have so much information at your disposal, information that I didn't have when I went to college in August of 1990. I literally had a grammar textbook and my brain if I was going to turn my papers in correctly. This isn't that world anymore. So when it comes to utilizing tools like Grammarly and Words Editor, yes, we need to be doing that. We also need to be utilizing our MLA tools or our APA tools. And so before we can do that, it's probably a good idea to know where you can access those tools. So a quick Google search of MLA format is going to bring you a lot of tools, a lot. Another tool that you have at your disposal is the Writing Center here at Tulsa Community College. We have a Writing Center on every campus. So you have access to those individuals. Please keep in mind that our writing centers are staffed with people who have the same level of education that your professors do for the most part. Many of them are adjunct English professors. A few of them are former high school English teachers. They know what they're doing, and none of them are scary people. As a matter of fact, I want you to do something different here with your thought process. I know that the word tutoring has a bad stigma. And across the board, people don't want to say that they've been to tutoring for the most part. It's like there's almost some level of shame attached to that word. And personally, I prefer that we don't use that word. Personally, I prefer that we stay away from that word because of a negative stigma. I want you to think of the Writing Center in this way, not as tutoring, but think of it in this way. Your tuition pays their salaries. So, in essence, they work for you. And because they work for you, they're your editors. So, not tutors, but editors. And so, in a sense, here you are, the writer, you go to your editors before you turn your work into the publisher, right? Yes. Look at it that way. It comes down to mindset. Honestly, it does. Whether you decide that you want to go see the Writing Center individuals or not. I mean, there's just this negative attachment to seeking help. And I wish that it wasn't there. I wish that that wasn't a thing, but it has been for a very long time. So we're going to begin to break that stereotype and we're going to begin to look at it a different way. The Writing Center is staffed with your editors. They are here for you. So why not go and take your paper and say, can you help me please make sure that my MLA is in correct format before Mrs. C's slashing pen gets a hold of it. So please take advantage of the Writing Center. There is also an MLA template in Word, and we'll be taking a look at that here shortly. Please use your tools. They're out there in abundance. There are textbooks that have MLA in them. It's all over the place. And I'm going to point out a few more resources here as we move along. On Blackboard under handouts, I have also given you an MLA paper example. that you can open up and you can look at in comparison with your own paper. So if you go under handouts, find MLA paper example, and you open it, this is what it looks like. This is exactly what it looks like. This is correct MLA format. Yay. I mean, there should be like bells and exciting things, fireworks popping off right now. This is exciting. This is correct MLA format. Yeah, that's what we want our paper to look at. Another thing that I put here, or not look at, but look like. So here's another thing that I want you to pay attention to. I am expecting Times New Roman 12-point font on your essays. We will use Times New Roman 12-point font. Please, no other font. I will count off. It needs to be Times New Roman 12-point font. Now, don't go and try to be a sneak ball and try to find a font that's very similar to Times New Roman to see if we can trip her up, right? See if we can catch her. Please don't do that. Just make sure that you are Times New Roman 12-point font. It's easy to read. There's psychology involved in the font styles that we choose. Times New Roman is proven easy to read for large documents. And not only that, it's on every computer. So whether you're using a Mac or a PC, which I'm using both at the same time here, whether you're using this one or that one, it still reads Times New Roman. All softwares read Times New Roman. It's universal. So that's what we're going to do. Here's another look at the handout, the example of MLA format, the handout that I have given to you. So there is a works cited page. It's exactly what it should look like. Exactly. Make sure you've got those hanging indents and that it is just simply double spaced. Now, we're going to talk about our double spacing here in just a bit. But if you need more assistance as you are going through, right, and you are doing your MLA format, you need to get more help. Please take the time to get more help.
Well, we'll have it fight side by side forever. But at the end of the day, you're you and I'm me. And that made us still good. Our paths diverged a long time ago. Yeah. It's probably for the best that we never see each other again. That's what you always wanted. He'll still get help. What? Get help? No, come on, enough. I hate it. It's great. It works every time. It's humiliating. Do you have a better plan? No, we're doing it. We are not doing get help. A classic. Oh, I still hate it. It's humiliating. No, not for me, it's not.
Oh, that makes me laugh. Now we're going to pop out of here real quick because I have to check something. Yes, we are recording. So we're going to screen share again and come back in. Nice. Okay, much better. That makes me a happy teacher. All right, so Google is your friend. Please don't forget that. You can Google MLA format. I just went in and did an image search on Google for MLA and found who knows how many example MLA papers that I could use as a reference. And many of them have spacings and different things like that marked on them. So honestly, it's just kind of mind-blowing to me when papers are turned in and they're full of errors like MLA format is incorrect. What that says to me is, number one, you didn't ask for help. Number two, you basically, yeah, no, we're just going to stick with number one. You didn't seek help, whether that was from a person, the writing center, another classmate, or any of these innumerable resources where you can actually take a look at this correct MLA formatting in paper form or on a screen and compare it to your own to make sure that it's right. The resources are there for you. It really comes down to your willingness to use them. and it will reflect in your grades. So also here are some other sites. These will come up more than likely when you do a Google search, but citationmachine.net, easybib.com, and bibney.org/MLA, also Al Purdue. These sites will help you, as will many others, help you create the research citations for your works cited pages. Superb resources. You can go on there and they will build your citation, your reference citations for you. You copy paste them off the site onto your works cited page and put them in alphabetical order, and boom, you're done. So incredibly cool. So those are some websites that you want to be familiar with if you're not already. Another thing that you can do is you can go on YouTube and type in MLA format, and you're going to find a plethora of videos that are explaining MLA format. So if after this talk and after looking on the internet for some resources and trying to read for the information that you need, you're still struggling, find some YouTube videos and use those as references. The information is out there. You need to be willing to use it. So please use your tools. I was doing that Google search and it sent me into a fit of giggles. I discovered that MLA format is even on Pinterest. Now, I thought that Pinterest was just for crafts, right? I thought it was for things like that. I had no clue. This cracked me up. I'm like, okay, I guess MLA format is crafty. Oh, anyway, the information is everywhere. Just had to share that with you. Some basics with MLAs, 1-inch margins all the way around, and it is double spaced. Absolutely double spaced. You've got your page number in the upper right-hand corner. The header, which consists of these blue things in the left-hand corner, and that would be your name, my name, class name, and the date in this format, number, month, and year. The title is centered and only one line above the text. Margins are 1 inch all the way around. And then page number citations come at the end of a quote. Now, any citation comes at the end of a quote. So not just quotes, but paraphrased material as well. Anything that requires a parenthetical citation, that comes at the end of the information. And I want you to notice something. At the end of the parentheses, you see the period. The period is not over there next to the word head. It's not. That's not where it goes. It does not go inside the quotation mark. The citation, the parenthetical citation, is part of the sentence. So the period comes at the end of the parenthetical citation. So please put it there. Down below that, it says when you've already said the author's name in your text, and the citation would look like this. So above it, you see the author's name in the parenthetical citation. Below it, it is not there. It is just the page number. That's because in the text, the author's name has already been said. Here's a little bit better example of that. Option 1. Jane Austen's fame waned in the years following her death. Her brother attempted to remedy the situation by spreading copies of her books to English literary figures. And then the parenthetical citation would be Talbot 23, close parenthesis, period. Now, option 2 is what we want to be doing. This is adding a signal phrase. And we always want to be adding a signal phrase. And there's multiple reasons why we want to add a signal phrase. So I'm going to show you this, and then I'm going to tell you why you want to add a signal phrase. So Austen biographer Jennifer Talbot states that Jane Austen's fame waned in the years following her death. Her brother attempted to remedy this situation by spreading copies of her books to English literary figures. And then down there in the parenthetical citation, just the page number followed by a period. So it is better to let your reader know who said the information and why it's important that they said it. This is cool stuff. In your essay, if you want to create a strong argument, always include who said what you're about to share and why it's important that your reader hears this information. Who is this person? Why are their words important? How can your reader know to trust them? Well, you let them know in a signal phrase, in a setup. You tell them, this is why you can trust information from this person. This is why I'm sharing information from this person. And what this person said is XYZ. Parenthetical citation, period. It's awesome stuff. The really cool thing about using these is that it increases your word count. Right? Yes, anything we can do to reach that elusive number that your teacher sets. Add a signal phrase. You increase your word count. You could increase your word count by a sentence or more just by using signal phrases. Like you might, if you're writing this book or you're using this resource by Jennifer Talbert, you might want to say more about her than she was just an Austen biographer. You might say, Jennifer Talbert in her biography on Jane Austen wrote, just add a few more words, or you might want to add even more than that. Jennifer Talbert, who is not only an Austen biographer, but also a writer of novels surrounding the characters that Jane Austen created. She states that. Now, I don't know if Jennifer Talbert actually did that or not. I just made that up off the top of my head. But give your reader information leading up to your in-text quotes or paraphrases. Number one, they need to know why the information is important. Why is it being shared? If you're just throwing quotes into your paper, who cares? Who cares? Tell your reader why to care. Give them a signal phrase. And it increases your word count. So do it. All right. Make sure that your works cited page looks like this. Double spaced, hanging indents. The MLA template in Word. Ooh, it is legit. So how do you find it? Well, you go to Word, and over in that left side column, you're going to click on New. Oh, look at me. I just knocked my chair down. There we go. Okay. So you're going to click on New. And then you're going to come over here in the Search for Online Templates search window, and you're going to type in MLA and click Enter. You will discover the MLA style paper and the MLA style research paper, and you're going to be so excited. There's two of them. Woo-hoo. There's a third item that popped up here, and I want you to see that. It says classic double spaced. Now we're going to come back to that here in just a moment, this whole idea of classic double spaced. I'm going to address that, but this is a great way to find classic double spaced, hint, hint, wink, wink. But for right now, we're focusing on MLA. So you can click either one of these templates, either one. They're basically the same thing. So you click on it, and then this little window pops up, and you click Create. And here it is. Here is the MLA template in Word. So you're just going to fill in all the blanks. It has everything in the right spots for you, and all of your spacings are correct. So just fill in the blanks. Basically highlight over where it says last name and put your last name. Highlight over where it says your name and put your name. Highlight over where it says instructor name and put my name. All the way down. I mean, you can just highlight the paper and start typing your own paper, and that's going to work just fine. The works cited page is on the back of both of these on the back of both of these templates. And one thing I will tell you is to pay attention to whether or not the title is centered on the template. It didn't used to be. I need to check it and see if it is currently. As a matter of fact, we can do that right now. I have it open on my PC, so let's just take a look. Let's go to New. And we're going to type in MLA. You guys are going to have to take my word for it. I'm downloading it right now. And we're going to scroll to the end. Nope, It is still not centered. So you are going to need to center the title on your paper if you're using the template. So not sure why Word is doing that, but they are. I'm sure one of these days they will get that corrected. If you don't want to use the word template, if you just start typing on regular old Word pages, you need to know that the default setting is anti-MLA. It's anti-classic double spaced, and it has wacky spacings all over the frickin' place. Now I'm going to call them wacky spacings, but they're really for business writing. They are not for academic writing, and you might struggle to correct them. Fortunately, I know how to fix it, and I'm going to show you how to fix it. I know, you're welcome. There's a handout that shows how to do it. So it's right here. It's called Words Spacings Fix Walkthrough. And if you open it up, this is what it looks like. So I'm not going to read all of that right now, but I am showing you that it exists. The handout is there. I highly suggest that you do this. If the spacings are not corrected when I go to open up your paper to grade it, I will be deducting 10 points off the top. It is important to me that our attention to detail in our formatting is spot on. So it's worth 10 points to me to get this corrected. You can see if you look at this screen right here, the difference between the items where the enter has been pushed and the items where you just naturally move from one line to the next. There's a big additional space that's added every time you hit enter. And that is Word's default setting. It is also Google Docs default setting. So don't think, aha, well, I use Google Docs, I don't have to deal with that. You have to do the same fix in Google Docs. So how do we fix this? Well, let's take a look at it, shall we? I'm going to show you what's on the handout by telling it to you. All right. So here we go. We're in Word and we've typed our paper and we're looking back at it, and oh my gosh, look at those extra spaces between all of the items, where every time I have pushed enter, there's just a little bit of extra space. Just a little bit of extra space. So how do we fix that? Well, lucky I know how. I'm going to show you. So you're going to come over here on this side of your screen and you're going to click select all. Okay. Once you have clicked select all and your whole paper is highlighted, come to the paragraph section. And I want you to push or click this up and down arrow. Once you click the up and down arrow, it's going to give you this drop down box. You want to make sure that you are on 2.0 for double space, but also down here, do you see where it says remove space after paragraph? Click that. Click, 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 click that. Oh yeah, click that. With your whole paper highlighted, click that. Once you do, your paper will be in correct format. So big difference. This is the same paper, just with those spacings removed. So there's correct, here's incorrect. See the extra spaces and how much more room it takes up. Not cool. Corrected. That's what you want to turn in, and that's what I'm going to be looking for. So if your paper is not corrected, it will be a 10-point deduction off the top. Just be aware of that. Now, after you do that, here's something that's very, very exciting. You can go up here in Word and click on Design, right there where that arrow is, and come over here and click on Set as Default. When you click Set as Default, this little window pops up and it says, set the current style set and theme, including fonts, colors, effects, and paragraph spacings as your default. These settings will be applied to all new blank documents, and you're going to click yes. Of course I want that. Of course I do. So once you do that, you're good. You're good. You're not going to have to keep fixing it every time. You did it one time, you're good. Awesome stuff. So happy for you. Yay. Now, little bit, just a hair more, MLA, find an example and make sure that yours looks just like it. You can Google it. Hee hee. Yeah, let's just let that sit there. All right. The Writing Center. This is their website. Honestly, you can go through the TCC site or the My TCC site and find the link to the Writing Center. But you can also just Google search Tulsa Community College Writing Center, and you'll go straight to this page. From this page is where you can access all of their information. You see their hours are there, their phone numbers are there, and the make, edit, or cancel an appointment window are there. That will open up their calendar, and you can choose an appointment at whichever location that you want to visit. And you can get yourself on the books for an appointment with the Writing Center. I believe that I know it's more than one a week. I don't remember if it's 2 or 3 that you're limited to, but it's 30-minute windows unless English is your second language. If English is your second language and you're struggling, you get an hour. I believe it's twice a week. It might be 3, but I believe it's twice. So just know that. It's a great resource, something that all of you should be checking into. So I wanted to put that on the screen for you. That's my MLA spiel. I mean, we're not going to put it all up on the blackboard and go over it, in great detail when we have our tools and we have our resources. There are other things that we need to talk about. So for more blowing your mind, here we are. This part's so freaking exciting. We're going to be talking about making your writing visually pleasing. It does not stop at formatting. And with that, let me just say, if your formatting is not spot on, if your MLA is not spot on, your professor will not be pleased. Not just me, but any professor. We are looking for those attention to detail things that make good employees, that make good students. So make sure that your format is spot on. All right, so visually pleasing, very important. That does not just stop at formatting. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take some time, and I am going to read The Man Who Loved Flowers to you, and then we're going to talk about a few things from the story. I have it pulled up over here on the PC, and I'm just going to read it from there. Okay, so if you want to get your book out, I forget what page it's on. I don't have my book right here in front of me. I did on Blackboard give you a copy of the text of the short story. It's just loaded in there, and you can read it from there as well if you want to follow along. So here we go. On an early evening in May of 1963, a young man with his hand in his pocket walked briskly up New York's 3rd Avenue. The air was soft and beautiful. The sky was darkening by slow degrees from blue to the calm and lovely violet of dusk. There are people who love the city, and this was one of the nights that made them love it. Everyone standing in the doorways of the delicatessens and dry cleaning shops and restaurants seemed to be smiling. An old lady pushing 2 bags of groceries in an old baby pram grinned at the young man and hailed him. "Hey, beautiful." The young man gave her a half smile and raised his hand in a wave. She passed on her way thinking, he's in love. He had that look about him. He was dressed in a light gray suit, the narrow tie pulled down a little, his top collar button undone. His hair was dark and cut short. His complexion was fair, his eyes a light blue. Not an extraordinary face, but on this soft spring evening, on this avenue, in May of 1963, he was beautiful. And the old woman found herself thinking with a moment's sweet nostalgia that in spring, anyone can be beautiful if they're hurrying to meet the one of their dreams for dinner and maybe dancing after. Spring is the only season when nostalgia never seems to turn bitter. And she went on her way glad that she had spoken to him, and glad he had returned the compliment by raising his hand in half salute. The young man crossed 63rd Street, walking with a bounce in his step and that same half smile on his lips. Partway up the block, an old man stood beside a chipped green handcart filled with flowers. The predominant color was yellow, a yellow fever of jonquils and late crocuses. The old man also had carnations and a few hothouse tea roses, mostly yellow and white. He was eating a pretzel and listening to a bulky transistor radio that was sitting kitty corner on his handcart. The radio poured out bad news that no one listened to. A hammer murderer was on the loose. JFK had declared that the situation in a little Asian country called Vietnam would bear watching. An unidentified woman had been pulled out of the East River. A grand jury had failed to indict a crime overlord in the current city administration's war on heroin. The Russians had exploded a nuclear device. None of it seemed real. None of it seemed to matter. The air was soft and sweet. Two men with beer bellies stood outside a bakery, pitching nickels and ribbing each other. Spring trembled on the edge of summer, and in the city, summer is the season of dreams. The young man passed the flower stand, and the sound of the bad news faded. He hesitated, looked over his shoulder, and thought it over. He reached into his coat pocket and touched the something in there again. For a moment, his face seemed puzzled, lonely, almost haunted. And then, as his hand left the pocket, it regained its former expression of eager expectation. He turned back to the flower stand, smiling. He would bring her some flowers. That would please her. He loved to see her eyes light up with surprise and joy when he brought her a surprise. Little things because he was far from rich. A box of candy, a bracelet, once only a bag of Valencia oranges because he knew they were Norma's favorite. My young friend, the flower vendor said as the man in the gray suit came back, running his eyes over the stock in the handcart. The vendor was maybe 68, wearing a torn gray knitted sweater and a soft cap in spite of the warmth of the evening. His face was a map of wrinkles. His eyes were deep in pouches and a cigarette jittered between his fingers. But he also remembered how it was to be young in the spring, young and so much in love that you practically zoomed everywhere. The vendor's face was normally sour, but now he smiled a little, just as the old woman pushing the groceries had, because this guy was such an obvious case. He brushed pretzel crumbs from the front of his baggy sweater and thought, if this kid were sick, they'd have him in intensive care right now. How much are your flowers? The young man asked. I'll make you up a nice bouquet for $1. Those tea roses, they're hothouse, cost a little more, 70 cents a piece. I sell you half a dozen for $3.50. Expensive, the young man said. Nothing good comes cheap, my young friend. Didn't your mother ever teach you that? The young man grinned. She might have mentioned it at that. Sure she did. I'd give you half a dozen, 2 red, 2 yellow, 2 white. Can't do no better than that, can I? Put in some baby's breath. They love that. And fill it out with some nice fern. Or you can have the bouquet for $1. They? The young man asked, still smiling. My young friend, the flower vendor said, flicking his cigarette butt into the gutter and returning the smile. No one buys flowers for themselves in May. It's like a national law. You understand what I mean? The young man thought of Norma, her happy, surprised eyes, and her gentle smile, and he ducked his head a little. Guess I do at that, he said. Sure you do. What do you say? Well, what do you think? I'm going to tell you what I think. Hey, advice is still free, isn't it? The young man smiled and said, I guess it's the only thing left that is. You're damn tootin' it is, the flower vendor said. Okay, my young friend, if the flowers are for your mother, you get her the bouquet. A few jonquils, a few crocuses, some lily of the valley. She don't spoil it by saying, oh, Junior, I love them. How much did they cost? Oh, that's too much. Don't you know enough not to throw your money around? The young man threw his head back and laughed. The vendor said, but if it's your girl, that's a different thing, my son, and you know it. You bring her the tea roses and she don't turn into an accountant. You take my meaning? Hey, she's going to throw her arms around your neck. I'll take the tea roses, the young man said. And this time it was the flower vendor's turn to laugh. The 2 men pitching nickels glanced over, smiling. Hey, kid, one of them called. You want to buy a wedding ring cheap? I sell you mine. I don't want it no more. The young man grinned and blushed to the roots of his dark hair. The flower vendor picked out 6 tea roses, snipped the stems a little, spritzed them with water, and wrapped them in a large conical spill. Tonight's weather looks just the way you'd want it, the radio said. Fair and mild, temps in the mid to upper 60s. Perfect for a little rooftop stargazing if you're the romantic type. Enjoy, Greater New York, enjoy. The flower vendor scotch taped the seam of the paper spill and advised the young man to tell his lady that a little sugar added to the water she put them in would preserve them longer. I'll tell her, the young man said. He held out a $5 bill. Thank you. Just doing the job, my young friend, the flower vendor said, giving him $1 2/4. His smile grew a bit. Give her a kiss for me. On the radio, the Four Seasons began singing Sherry. The young man pocketed his change and went on up the street, eyes wide and alert and eager, looking not so much around him at the life ebbing and flowing up and down Third Avenue as inward and ahead, anticipating. But certain things did impinge. A mother pulling a baby in a wagon, the baby's face comically smeared with ice cream. A little girl jumping rope and sing-songing out her rhyme. Betty and Henry up in a tree, Kissing. First comes love, then comes marriage. Here comes Henry with the baby carriage. 2 women stood outside a washateria smoking and comparing pregnancies. A group of men were looking in a hardware store window at a gigantic color TV with a 4-figure price tag. A baseball game was on, and all the players' faces looked green. The playing field was a vague strawberry color, and the New York Mets were leading the Phillies by a score of 6-1 in the top of the 9th. He walked on, carrying the flowers, unaware that the 2 women outside the washateria had stopped talking for a moment and had watched him wistfully as he walked by with his paper of tea roses. Their days of receiving flowers were long over. He was unaware of the traffic cop who stopped the cars at the intersection of 3rd and 69th with a blast on his whistle to let him cross. The cop was engaged himself and recognized the dreamy expression on the young man's face from his own shaving mirror, where he had often seen it lately. He was unaware of the 2 teenage girls who passed him going the other way and then clutched themselves and giggled. At 73rd Street, he stopped and turned right. This street was a little darker, lined with brownstones and walk-down restaurants with Italian names. 3 blocks down, a stickball game was going on in the fading light. The young man did not go that far. Half a block down, he turned into a narrow lane. Now the stars were out, gleaming softly, and the lane was dark and shadowy, lined with the vague shapes of garbage cans. The young man was alone now. No, not quite. A wavering yowl rose in the purple gloom, and the young man frowned. It was some tomcat's love song, and there's nothing pretty about that. He walked more slowly and glanced at his watch. It was 8:15, and Norma should be just... And then he saw her coming toward him from the courtyard, wearing dark blue slacks and a sailor blouse that made his heart ache. It was always a surprise seeing her for the first time. It was always a sweet shock. She looked so young. Now his smile shone out, radiated out, and he walked faster. Norma, he said. She looked up and smiled, but as they drew together, the smile faded. His own smile trembled a little, and he felt a moment's disquiet. Her face over the sailor blouse suddenly seemed blurred. It was getting darker now. Could he have been mistaken? Surely not. It was Norma. I brought you flowers, he said in a happy relief, and handed the paper spill to her. She looked at them for a moment, smiled, and handed them back. Thank you, but you're mistaken, she said. My name is Norma, he whispered, and pulled the short-handled hammer out of his coat pocket where it had been all along. They're for you, Norma. It was always for you. All for you. She backed away, her face a round white blur, her mouth an opening black O of terror, and she wasn't Norma. Norma was dead. She had been dead for 10 years, and it didn't matter because she was going to scream. And he swung the hammer to stop the scream, to kill the scream, and he swung the hammer. The spill of flowers fell out of his hand. The spill spilled and broke open, spilling red, white, and yellow tea roses beside the den of trash cans where the cats made alien love in the dark, screaming in love, screaming, screaming. He swung the hammer and she didn't scream, but she might scream because she wasn't Norma. None of them were Norma. And he swung the hammer, swung the hammer, swung the hammer. She wasn't Norma. And so he swung the hammer as he had done 5 other times. Some unknown time later, he slipped the hammer back into his inner coat pocket and backed away from the dark shadow sprawled on the cobblestones, away from the litter of tea roses by the garbage cans. He turned and left the narrow lane. It was full dark now. The stickball players had gone in. If there were bloodstains on his suit, they wouldn't show, not in the dark. Not in the soft, late spring dark. And her name had not been Norma, but he knew what his name was. It was love. His name was Love, and he walked these dark streets because Norma was waiting for him, and he would find her someday soon. He began to smile, and a bounce came into his step as he walked on down 73rd Street. A middle-aged married couple sitting on the steps of their building watched him go by, head cocked, eyes far away, a half smile on his lips. When he had passed by, the woman said, "How come you never look that way anymore?" "Huh?" "Nothing," she said. But she watched the young man in the gray suit disappear into the gloom of the encroaching night and thought that if there was anything more beautiful than springtime, it was young love. Dun, dun. That, ladies and gentlemen, was The Man Who Loved Flowers by Stephen King. So there are a few things that we're going to talk about from this piece. I hope that you liked it. The very first thing I want to point out from this piece is on the first page. When I passed this out in the classroom, especially back when I was teaching at the trade school and I would have classroom fulls of just men, I'd pass this out and there would be like this general sigh through the classroom of, which me being me kind of eggs me on. Like, I think that's funny. So, haha, but because I know something you don't know. So we look at this first page and there's a general feeling of, oh my gosh, that's going to take forever. You don't have to, acknowledge if you had that reaction when you first saw the words on the page. But it is long. It looks long. And do you know why it looks long? Because each one of those is a chunky paragraph and they're all about the same size. And because of that, our minds look at it and our minds tell us, no, thanks. No, don't want to waste my time. Don't want to dig into that. It looks hard. No, thank you. And so we don't want to do it. Now, had I told you, had we looked at this one first and I said, let's read this, what do you think? More people are going to be like, yeah, okay, that looks easier to read. I don't mind that so much. Because there's white space and it's broken up. Now, yes, there's a whole lot more words on the left-hand side than there are in the right. But the point here is all about making your writing visually pleasing. It's about making it look to your reader like it's possible to navigate. Very important. Now, let me make a very clear distinction here for you. There's a difference between academic writing and real world writing. When you are in college, you're going to be encountering many different types of professors. At the beginning of your time with each professor, discover what their feelings are on paragraphs. You will have many who exist inside of an academic bubble who want all paragraphs to be, 7 to 10 sentences. They have to be this long. They have to have a topic sentence. They have to be very robotic. Hey, if that's what you need to do in order to get an A in that class, then do it. But I want to talk about real world writing. And real world writing has everything to do with whether or not your audience is going to give two shakes. I almost said another word about whether or not your audience is going to care at all about what you have to say. And the first hump you have to get over is it visually pleasing? Or will my reader look at it and go, no, thanks. Don't want to read that. It's too long. It's too hard to read. Not interested. The one on the left, all big paragraphs, all about the same size, looks daunting. The one on the right, I can get through that. So the lesson that we take from this is twofold. Number one, pay attention to what's going on in your college classes as you go through your college career and do what your professors are requesting. Number two, keep in mind that in real world writing, you want to vary the lengths of your paragraphs. You want to break them up and make them easy to read. If you do not, you are not going to get read. That is the way that goes. And it's with more technology and faster rates of speed of information, our attention spans are shrinking. Big chunky paragraphs are going to get tossed to the wayside. So we need to be keeping up with what our audiences are actually going to read. What is pleasing to our audiences? I'm letting you know in my class, break up your paragraphs, make them easy to read. I have 120 students this semester, and that's a lot of essays to grade. So break up your paragraphs, make what you have written easy to read for me, please. I'm asking you nicely. So it's real world writing. I want to be practicing real world writing. Yes, it's important to be able to do academic writing. Yes, for the purposes of achieving your goal, which is your degree. That's great. But you walk out the door with that degree, that's over. You are now in the real world. So let's go ahead and start talking some real world things now. So that's a huge one for me. And we see that right here from The Man Who Loved Flowers. Now, I want to talk about some other big ideas that are important. Let's talk about repetition in our writing. Sometimes repetition is good. Sometimes it will serve our idea. Sometimes it's bad. Sometimes it's going to detract. It's going to pull your reader out. It's going to make them go, ooh, ew, no thanks. And The Man Who Loved Flowers is a great example of both of these. So let's talk about the ew one first. So it's on the first page of the short story if you pull up the copy that I gave you on Blackboard. Partly down the page, let me just go ahead and get to it. Oh, I'm using the wrong mouse. I have two computers open here on my desk. Yeah, it's this sentence. He loved to see her eyes light up with surprise and joy when he brought her a surprise. And I'm like, immediately like, Stephen King, you know better. He loved to see her eyes light up with surprise when he brought her a surprise. Really, Stephen? That's terrible repetition. That does not serve any idea here. And so it would be better written. He loved to see her eyes light up with joy when he brought her a surprise. Take out the first surprise. Or I don't know, Mr. King, I dare to edit you. Say he loved to see her eyes light up when he brought her a surprise. Ta-da! Fixed. Woot woot. Fixed. And then it doesn't pull the reader out. So bad repetition can pull a reader out. It does not serve the idea of the message or the point of what has been written, whether it's fiction or nonfiction. You have to be careful with overusing words. Now, at the end of this story, we have a little bit of repetition, right? And not just repetition, we have a little bit, I'm saying a little bit, it's really a lot of bit of alliteration within that repetition. So we have several words. We have 3 different words in particular here towards the end of the story. The first one is probably my favorite, where he says, the spill, spilled, spilling. I think that's amazing. The spill, spilled, spilling red, white, and yellow tea roses beside the dented trash cans where the cats made alien love in the dark, screaming in love, screaming, screaming. Oh my gosh, it's just beautifully written. So that repetition serves the idea. It is there to make you uncomfortable. So we've got the spill, spilled, spilling. But we also have scream. So let's see. I know you can't see it unless you've got it open right there in front of you. The word scream. Let's see here. I'm going to count it. It didn't matter because she was going to scream, and he swung the hammer to stop the scream, to kill the scream. And he swung the hammer, the spill of flowers fell out of his hand, the spill spilled and broke open, spilling red, white, and yellow tea roses beside the tin and trash cans where the cats made alien love in the dark, screaming in love, screaming, screaming. He swung the hammer, she didn't scream, but she might scream because she wasn't Norma. None of them were Norma. 8 times the word scream is used. 8 times. That is daring. I almost said another word. I catch myself so much when I'm excited. I'm like about to cuss. 8 times scream is used. Now let's look at it again. How about swung? How many times is swung used? So, all right. It didn't matter. Okay. So it didn't matter because she was going to scream. And he swung the hammer to stop the scream, to kill the scream. He swung the hammer. The spill of flowers fell out of his hand. The spill spilled and broke open, spilling red, white, and yellow, blah, blah, blah. Okay, he swung the hammer. She didn't scream, but she might scream because she wasn't Norma. None of them were Norma. He swung the hammer, swung the hammer, swung the hammer. She wasn't Norma, so he swung the hammer as he had done 5 other times. 7. 7 swungs, 8 screams, and 3 spills. That's a lot of S. It's a lot of alliteration using the same sound at the beginning of words to create a mood. It creates this, it's like a rolling river, and he's just pulling you along. It's not even a river, it's white rapids, and he's pulling you into it, just pulling you, and you're uncomfortable. You're screaming, stop! Stop already, stop. And all of that is done with regular everyday words. Swung, spill, scream. You know those words, you use those words every day. It's just a matter of putting them together. So scream is used 8 times, swung is used 7 times, and spill 3. And it's beautiful. It's very uncomfortable. It's very edgy. You're like, oh my God, stop. Make it stop. That's good repetition. It did its job. And it did its job, or he did his job, without complicated words. He did it with words we all use. It's just a matter of putting them together. So repetition, pay attention to repetition. The next thing here would be cliches. Cliches are used sayings, old sayings that just get kind of like boring. You don't want to read them. So let's look up some examples of cliches. Some common examples of cliches in English. Let's touch base. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Don't put all of your eggs in one basket. I'm like a kid in the candy store. I lost track of time. Roses are red, violets are blue, ... Time heals all wounds. We're not laughing at you, we're laughing with you. Don't beat around the bush. All of these kinds of sayings, they are cliches and they are overused. Don't use those in your writing. When you are editing your work and you catch yourself having written a cliche, take it out and reword it. Just reword it into new, fresh language that's you talking, not a cliche. Euphemisms. Now, I could just skip this and tell you not to use euphemisms, but that wouldn't be fair, right? This is an unfamiliar term. So, euphemism, let me give you a definition, is a soft term used in place of a harsh term, or a soft phrase used in place of a harsh phrase. So, a euphemism, it would be the difference between saying, "It is damn hot outside." Now, that's not a euphemism, that's a cuss word. It would be a euphemism to say, "It is darn hot out there." You also sound like you have a little bit of a country accent. "It is darn hot." So, cuss word, harsh word. It's damn hot. Euphemism, soft word. It's darn hot out there. Nothing wrong with that. I have country accent. Not so much now as when I was a kid, because I lived in Missouri for 25 years and it kicked my accent right out of me, which I'm not pleased about. I'm trying to get it back. Come on, Oklahoma, get it back. I've been here 5 years back. Get it back. Anyway, euphemisms. Do I use them? Do I not? Well, I don't know. Who is your audience? That's what matters. Who is your audience? If you don't know who your audience is, you might want to err on the side of neither. If you don't know who your audience is, you might want to just say, "It's hot outside." Because you don't want to alienate an audience based off of making a word choice that has potential harm. But if you do know your audience, which you should always know your audience, if you do know your audience and you know that they're not adverse to curse language, or you know that it's going to take a hard, strong word to catch their attention, then do it. And if you know your audience and you know that they are highly offended by curse words, then use the euphemism. If you want to say something without fully saying it, use a euphemism. So if you are beating around the bush, to use a cliche, if you are not coming directly to the point on purpose, euphemisms are a great way to do that. Make it sound a whole lot softer than it actually is. So it really comes down to who's your audience. With your word choices, you have to think about that. Do I use harsh language or do I use soft language? Or do I use neutral language? Or, and this is always a better idea, it supersedes all of those ideas, just make what you're saying visual. So you could say, "It's damn hot outside," or you could say, "It's darn hot outside," or you could say, "It's hot outside," or you could say, "I fried an egg on the sidewalk before I came in." No need to even use the word hot, and the idea still gets across. So making it visual is always best. However, you do have these word choices to make on a regular basis. What word do you choose to use? What will your audience hear? That's key. The next thing here goes right along with that, slang. Do you use slang? I don't know. Who are you trying to talk to? Are they going to be offended by your slang? Are they going to be offended? Maybe you want them to be offended, so use it. Maybe you don't want them to be offended, so don't use it. What is the outcome you desire? Don't let it be wasted words. Make sure that you're keeping your audience in mind so you're not just out there wasting your words. Please. For your own sake. And then there's fancy writing. Like, don't try to sound smarter than you are. I'm not saying you're not smart. We're all smart in different ways. That's the cool thing about us as humans. We all have gifts and talents, and we all have different intelligence levels. I mean, you are smart in areas that I couldn't even hope to be smart in. And I'm smart in a few. I don't know, like Okay, I can put commas in a sentence. Yes. Aren't you jealous at my superpower? Woo woo, comma girl. Don't sell yourself short. Don't be trying to sound fancier than you are. I want you to be remembering The Man Who Loved Flowers. I want you to be thinking about that short story because there's not a word in that story that you don't know and don't use on a regular basis. Stephen King writes like he talks, and so should you. Write like you talk. Use the words that you use. Now, keep your audience in mind, and maybe you might need to sprinkle a word in here or there or remove a word or two every so often, but don't try to sound fancy. Be you. Absolutely be you. Always be you. The next one is sexist language. We have to be really careful with sexist language. Let's don't use it. I just try to avoid it. It's just not an area I want to jump into. We live in a very strange world right now. And if this was Comp 2, I would launch into a whole conversation on offense and cancel culture and everything else right now. But I'm not going to do that with Comp 1. So be careful with sexist language. Make sure that you think through the things that you say before you say them, whether you write them or you speak them. Be very careful, well, depending on the consequences that you're willing to have. So be watchful of that. Another thing is announcements. I want you to be paying attention to announcements. And what those are is when you are writing, let's say you're writing a business letter and you start out, your first line is, this business letter is to inform you that, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so this business letter is to inform you that word choices set the tone in writing. No, take all those ugly announcement words off. Just say word choices set the tone in writing. Jump right to what you're trying to talk about. Don't say, this essay is here to inform you that word choices set the tone. No, don't say that. Just say, word choices set the tone. Cut off the announcements. They are called deadwood. They are non-essential words. Don't be using those to hit your word count. Use signal phrases and other ideas to hit your word count, not announcements. They're boring. They're boring. No one wants to read those. So take them off. They make your writing better if those aren't there. Unfamiliar terms. So see, I just did that for you, back a few up. I could have just left euphemism there, skipped it, went on, pretended like you knew what it meant, and just keep rolling. But that wouldn't be right. So when you are writing and you come across a word in your editing that someone maybe in peer review, they say, hey, I don't know what this is. Can you define it for me? And you go, you don't know what that is? Okay. And so add a definition to your work. Keep in mind right now, before you start writing, you know things I don't know. Everyone that sees this video knows things I don't know. Therefore, you are going to know terms I don't know. And so if you're going to communicate with me as your audience, there are probably going to be a few words that you write in your essays that are going to need a definition. It's just the way it goes. Sorry, not sorry. You're smart. We all know things. You need to know your audience well enough to know what terms you're going to use or you would like to use that they might not know, so you can give those a definition in your writing. And let's whisper this one, it increases your word count. So define unfamiliar terms. It's a great idea. It also makes your argument stronger because you're showing deference, you're showing kindness, you're inviting your reader into understanding what you're saying. So unfamiliar terms are important. The imperative and I. Oh, whew, I'm just like 100 miles an hour here coming at you with this stuff. So The imperative. Writing in the imperative is basically like telling someone how to do something without saying you or I, either one. Gone. Don't use them. When I was working on my master's class, we had an assignment. We had an imperative assignment, and we had to give someone directions to do a thing without saying you or I. Now, it might sound like an easy assignment. It's really not. And it was real funny to me how difficult it was for these master's level writers. We were doing peer review, and I was reading through several classmates' papers, and I'm like, oh, caught a U, oh, caught a U, oh, there's an I, and I'm like check marking them and circling them and feeling all cocky. But the reason I was feeling cocky is because I achieved it. I was able to do it. Now, I was able to do it because I used my tools. I went in Word, and up in that find and replace area in the toolbar, I clicked, was it find or replace? Or I don't remember which one I clicked, but I looked for all of the instances of you in my paper and I took them out. And then I looked for all of the instances of I in my paper and I took them out. And I went back through it several times. And I was amazed that none of my classmates were able to do that. I was like, what, there were 14 of us. And I'm like, seriously, I'm the only one that was able to do this because I used tools. Regardless, it makes your writing tighter. It makes your writing stronger to remove you and I. And most times they are non-essential. Most times they don't need to be there. If you are writing in first person, it's obvious that it's your perspective because you're the one saying it. So it's redundant to say, I think, I feel. Well, duh, you're the one talking. So you don't need to write those words. They're announcements. So take them off. So instead of saying, I think that if you want to be a better communicator, keep these things in mind. Just say, to be a better communicator, keep these things in mind. I took out you and I both took them out, gone, done. It makes your writing better. Now, if I could ask for a show of hands, I would do so, but I'm sure that there are many of you right now who cook, use recipes. Now, not the blog post kind, but the actual, I'm going to print the recipe, jump to the recipe at the bottom of the screen kind of recipes. I'm sure you've used recipes. If you have used a recipe, you have read an imperative essay. It just has numbers on the paragraphs. All recipes are imperative essays. They are giving directions without using pronouns. So you want to know how to make tighter paper? Pay attention to some recipes. They use just the language needed to get the point across, because if they don't use very precise language, your cake won't turn out right, or your cookies will be flat. All of these different things will happen if you don't get your directions just right. Word choices are very important. So be aware that I and you can be a detractor in your writing. They can take away from your message because they cloud it. They add unnecessary language, and they just don't need to be there most of the time. So that's just one of those little freebies that I'm throwing in for you here. Another one is variety. And I already said this with paragraphs, use variety in your paragraph length. But not only that, we want to use variety in our word length and variety in our sentence length as well. Real world writing, not all of your sentences need to be 10 words long. Now, perhaps in an academic bubble, depending on who your professor is. And again, you need to find that out so that you're doing what they're requesting so you can get the grades that you want. But variety is so important if you are actually trying to connect with an audience. If you actually want them to read what you have to say, use variety. Break it up. Make it look easy to read. This is psychology. Break it up. Make it look accessible. Give it some white space. Very important. Be careful with your word art. You can overdo word art. Now, that would be underlining things and highlighting them and using italics and boldface, all of these different things, using all caps, etc. Now, you're not going to probably be doing those things so much in an essay, but just in your regular everyday communications, be careful with word art because they can take away from your message. Now, some of us, on the other hand, might want to try to put a little word art into what you're doing. Maybe you need to make a word stand out here or there. Don't be afraid to bold a word on occasion if you really need it to pop off the page, but we don't want to overuse it because then the bold means nothing. That's like people who cuss all the time. It doesn't mean anything to anyone around you when you cuss because that's what you always do. That's how you sound. Now, someone like me who doesn't cuss very often, if ever, let's say I walk through the house and I'm upset about something, but nobody knows it, and I let the F-bomb fly, every person around me is going to turn their head like they just had whiplash. Like, what's wrong with her? Because I don't talk like that. I save those words. I give them power. Words can have power depending on how we choose to use them. Or you can sit around and be one of these people who says, oh, that's just the way I am. They can accept it or not. Okay, well, that's fine. But in business, that's not going to really get you very far unless you're the business owner. And then you might not have employees stay. I don't know. It's going to be a rough road. So understand communication skills are very important. And all of this ties up together. Everything that we talk about with writing has to do with communication skills and how we get along with one another, whether it's written or it's nonverbal, they all tie together. So when we are editing, we want to revise, 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 and that repetition is important. It is on purpose 3 times, minimum 3 times in your repetition. 3 is the magic number. We're going to say that again either next week or the week after. I think it's in week 4. We're going to say that again. Magic number is 3. Revise, revise, revise. And in order to be a better writer, Stephen King says you have to read. Now, here's the fun thing about that. I'm going to have some of you who are like, ew, I don't read. I hate to read. I don't want to read. Blah, blah, blah. Bull honky. You've got one of these. You got a cell phone. You're a reader. You may not be like, like me reading The Man Who Loved Flowers, but you're reading. Every day you're reading. I love when people tell me they don't like to read. I'm like, well, then how do you communicate? Because that's the way we communicate now, right? We're always doing this. Every one of us. We're always doing this. We're reading. We're reading and we're writing. It's an amazing thing that we do. And then we want to come to college or school and go, I don't like to read. Yeah, you do. It's how you communicate. It's just about what you choose to read. You're reading things that interest you. Guaranteed, you read news articles about things that interest you, or you read a science article here or there, or you might read a beauty tip magazine article, or you might read something about celebrities and their crushes, or you're reading something. Doesn't matter what it is, just read. It doesn't have to be full-length novels. It doesn't have to be the classics. So don't get that stuck in your head. Because you don't like Shakespeare doesn't mean you're not a reader. You can read anything. Like literally read anything. I read a lot of news. That's where I do the bulk of my reading. News and students' essays. That's the bulk of my reading right now in my life. Doesn't that sound exciting? It is. It is exciting. But if you want to be a better writer, read. Just be a little more intentional in what you're reading if you want to enhance your vocabulary a little bit more, but also change your mindset. Your mindset's been telling you that you don't like to read because you have I have to hold a 500-page book in my hands thing in your head. Get that out. Get that gone. Get that gone. You are a reader. You have a smartphone. You're using it every day. You're reading already. So, I don't know, be a little more intentional with some news articles. Be a little more intentional with what you do online. Read a little bit more, and it will help you with your communication skills. Absolutely. Punctuation, we're going to look at in a little bit. I'm just mentioning it right here. We got a lot more to look at with punctuation. And you guys are like, at this point, going, oh no, a grammar lesson. I didn't say that. And anytime during this video, because I know I've been talking a long time, if you feel the need to pause, I understand. Take a break, get a drink. I get it. I totally do. It's totally fine. But I'm doing 2 days here down to one. The online classes need that. So it's going to be available for everyone to be able to watch at your leisure. So let's make sure that our writing is visually pleasing. Understand that our word choices are important, very important. And if you want to be a better communicator, you have to understand it's often the simplest word that gets the attention. Let's go back to Stephen King's story. Let's go back to The Man Who Loved Flowers here. My favorite line in that entire piece, and I can't believe that I almost left this out. My favorite line in this entire story is on the last page. I'm just going to read this leading up to it. It says, some unknown time later, he slipped the hammer back into his inner coat pocket and backed away from the dark shadows sprawled on the cobblestones, away from the litter of tea roses by the garbage cans. He turned and left the narrow lane. It was full dark now. As far as I'm concerned, it could end right there. It was full dark now. We use that word full every day. Every day we use that word. I'm so full. My gas tank is full, right? My brain is full. We use that word every day of our lives. Yet here, Stephen King took this very simple word and inserted it into a 5-word sentence. It was full dark now. And the word full takes on a spiritual significance. Completely dark, spiritually dark, whole. It was dark now. It's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant writing. Simple words. It's just using them together, putting them together, not trying to sound like something you're not. Just being you. Just being simple. That's beautiful. Beautiful. It was full dark now. Nothing fancy about any of those words. We literally use those words every day. So stop being mean to yourself. That's like homework 15. I just made that up. But you have to stop being mean to yourself. Stop saying, I don't have good words. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. So much of this is up here in your head. So much of this, I don't like to write. It's in your head. Someone somewhere told you that your writing was bad and you took it personally, or something happened that stopped you. I see it as my job to pull all of those shackles off of you and to help you learn you can communicate. You can do this. It's all about communication skills. So it can be the simplest word. It can just be a little bit of white space that makes all of the difference for a reader. We want to make sure that we're talking to our audiences and not around them, right? Not around them, to them. We want to use words and language that our audience will hear. So we need to make sure that we know our audience well enough to understand what kinds of words they will hear. Know your audience. You've got to. You actually have to. if you want to be effective. Otherwise, you're wasting your words. Don't waste your words. Know your audience. Cut out what's not necessary. Cut out the dead wood. Cut out the pronouns that don't need to be there. Cut out the announcements, the words that aren't serving you in any way at all. Get rid of them. We can find other ways to increase your word count, not those. And then watch your grammar and your spelling, etc., and so forth. And you go, oh no. And I say, oh yes. So in the beginning, God said, let there be grammar. And there was grammar. And then there was grammar issues. And they was bad. Oh, what follows here is Daisha Cunningham's version of how to have a grammar lesson. Don't tell anyone. Shh, this is just between us. So moving forward. First things first. Well, wait, no, maybe we ought to go back to that. I hope all of you realize that this is very poorly written. In the beginning, God said, let there be grammar, and there was grammar. And then there were grammar issues, and they were bad, would be the correct way to write that. Okay, now that I said that, we can move on. So commas are important. Commas are important. You need to know something about how to use commas, because bad grammar and poorly used commas can kill people. I like shooting friends and family. But maybe he meant this. I like shooting, comma, friends, comma, and family. Totally different sentences with completely different outcomes. Commas are important. I mean, you can leave them out, but then we might all duck and cover. You might not understand why people are running away from you, because you don't use commas. They're important. Commas are important, people. Commas aren't people. If you are writing to someone and you're talking to them and you're going to call them people, it would be commas are important, comma, people. When you're speaking to someone and you're going to say their name, comma, name. Commas are important, comma, RJ. I love that response. Commas aren't people. Oh, funny. Commas are important. Big difference in these two statements. No more tequila. No, more tequila. Totally different statements. One is very, very sad. The other, party, right? Big difference a comma can make. See, this is an important grammar lesson. How to cook, crack, and clean a crab. Step 1, use commas. How to cook, comma, crack, comma, and clean a crab. Otherwise, we're doing some nefarious stuff, and the FBI probably ought to come in and take a look. How to cook, crack, and clean a crab. Not okay. Commas, we need them. How to cook, comma, crack, comma, and clean a crab. Very different. If your dog poops, please pick it up. Suffice it to say, the order of your words is important. Yeah, so order of words, or even just the words chosen. There are probably many ways to fix this sign. Whatever way that you might choose, what stands as something we need to pay attention to is that the sign needs changed. Otherwise, everybody's walking around holding their dogs and you're stepping in poop. So, let's fix that sign. People are eating children in this area. Please leash your dog and clean up after them. Oh, I mean, maybe it's a cannibal beach. I don't know. People are eating, colon, exclamation point, period, dash, something to break that up. Something. Oh, hunters, please use caution when hunting pedestrians using walk trails. Be very quiet when you're hunting pedestrians. Use caution. Perhaps the makers of the sign wanted to say, hunters, please use caution when hunting. I don't know, period, exclamation point. Pedestrians use walk trails. Not using. Pedestrians use walk trails. Otherwise, please let me know where this forest is so I can make sure and not go there. Now, this is a very special toilet. I'm not sure you guys knew that something like this existed. Attention, toilet only for disabled, elderly, pregnant children. Oh, my side hurts. So we need some commas or some asterisks or some kind of word art that distinguishes each one of these words from the next. Maybe let's put them in age order as well. We could say toilet only for children, comma, you could put pregnant, comma, disabled, comma, and the elderly. Something to break this up, or that's a very special toilet. Very, very special. Watch out for those disabled, elderly, pregnant children. They're going to cut in front of you every time. Now, are you hungry? Oh, best sausage supper in St. Louis. Come and eat Pastor Tom Wrestler. Ew. How about no? How about no thanks? I think I'll skip this one. Now, best sausage supper in St. Louis, exclamation point. Come and eat, exclamation point. You could even say come and eat with Pastor Tom Wrestler. Or you could say Pastor Tom Wrestler says best sausage supper in St. Louis, come and eat. Fix your sign, or Pastor Wrestler's gonna be running for his life when everybody comes at him with some forks. And then there are some more. Oh, this one's from my hometown. This is a restaurant down in McAllister, Captain John's. This was posted on Facebook like right about the time that they were opening. My best friend's a teacher down there, and she sent it to me, and I was like, no, 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 no. So proud. So proud. So just so you know, Captain John's in McAllister is accepting reservations. They don't want you. They're accepting, like, no, pushing you away. They are discluding you. What they meant to say, of course, is accepting, 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 not accepting. They are completely different words. And those of you who are learning English, you have all my respect, because our language is difficult and confusing. So that was a fun one from my hometown. How about this cake place? Now, the picture actually has nothing to do with the sign. I just paired it because I thought it was funny. But cakes for all occasions, weddings, birthdays, anniversaries, christenings. Would you buy a cake from these people? Well, my response is no, because none of those items are possessives. They should be plurals, no apostrophes. I'm one of those stinky people that if I'm shopping on eBay and I find a whole lot of grammatical mistakes and punctuation errors in your ad, I'm probably not going to buy from you, because what that tells me is you didn't take the time to edit your ad, which means you're not going to take time to work with me either. So I'm just kind of not into working with advertisers and companies who have mistakes on their signs. You should have had somebody catch that prior to posting it. Just saying. Now, this is a very special tumor. Boy paralyzed after tumor fights back to gain black belt. That is a strong tumor. I don't know if you know many tumors that have black belts. I'm not sure if this is supposed to be funny. I kind of feel a little bit bad giggling at this one, but certainly somebody at the newspaper, Mark Reynolds, would have caught this. Boy fights back to gain black belt after paralyzed with tumor. Duh. Fix it. Change your sign. Otherwise, we have one mighty little black belt of a tumor. Now, this is just embarrassing. I don't even work at that school, but this is embarrassing. High school park, junior high. Sometimes you're the dog, sometimes you're the hydrant. You are? Y-O-U apostrophe R-E? We have to use the correct your here. Oh, it's fancy, wasn't it? Look at that again. Ready? Woo! Now here are some of my favorites. Red squirrels drive slowly. Not the brown ones. The brown ones drive fast. I think they're trying to tell us to drive slowly because there are red squirrels in the area. I could be wrong, but I think that's what they're trying to say. Now, if you work in a doctor's office, punctuation's important. I don't even want to read that out loud. No, commas are important. I mean, a period would have sufficed. A dash, something, put something between eat and that other word. Chickens, keep your dogs on leash. Nobody else has to, just the chickens. The chickens have to keep their dogs leashed up. Caution, children drive carefully. The adults can drive however they want, but children, please drive carefully. Again, something, caution, children in the area, period, exclamation point, line, dash, something. Please drive carefully. Fix it. Now, I don't know if you're ready for this one. This is like, this one needs like music. Ready? Caution. Hot children 10 and under need adult supervision. Not the ugly kids, just the hot kids. Caution, hot, exclamation point, big line, something, separate these two, put a big space there. Children 10 and under need adult supervision. There has to be a distinction. Otherwise, hot becomes an adjective that modifies children, and it's all bad and very discriminatory and could get you in a lot of trouble. Not okay. If your sign breaks, fix it. I don't want to be eated. Oh, this one's funny. Illegally parked cars will be fine. don't know if somebody like made this sign wrong on purpose or if they went up and stole the D or what happened, but it's very funny. And I think we should all park there. It says we'll be fine. It's not my fault. I'm not paying it if you get a fine. The proofreader should have uploaded it. LOL, you've done nothing wrong. Okay, first of all, it's not should have, it's should have. The proofreader should have uploaded it. LOL, you've, YOU apostrophe VE, you have done nothing wrong. Yes, you did. Yes, you did. You did all the things wrong. All the things. Tattoos. Oh, tattoos. Nothing lasts forever. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Like a poorly placed apostrophe. Nothing lasts forever. Oh, funny. That should just be LASTS. There's no possessive apostrophe in that word at all. At all. Not even a little bit. No regrets. Not even a single letter. Scotty P. If you haven't seen Meet the Millers, add that to your fake homework list. Excellent movie. No regrets. Oh, this is funny. If you are like totally closing the doors of your store forever and you're never going to reopen it, here's your sign. We're open. Oh, oh, they didn't steal the apostrophe from the one before and put it here. We are open. We are open. Fix your sign. Use a permanent marker, something. Fix your sign. We're open. Now, Lady Gaga and I need to have a conversation because this woman has been teaching bad grammar for far, far too long. She's going around telling people you and me could write a bad romance. Well, I am here to tell you, no, Lady Gaga, we cannot, because you have incorrect grammar skills. It is you and I could write a bad romance. Thank you very much. And how do I know that? Well, there's a simple trick. Let me teach you this simple trick. When you are faced with a situation, is it you and me or you and I? Take the other person off and just leave yourself and then read the sentence. Me could write a bad romance? Well, no, that's not right. So it couldn't be you and me. How about let's try the other one? I could write a bad romance. Well, yeah, I sure could. So it is you and I could write a bad romance. And this works at the beginning of a sentence and at the end of a sentence. So if you get to the end of the sentence and it says, a bad romance could be written by you and me, or a bad romance could be written by you and I. Which one is it? Well, take the other person off. A bad romance could be written by me, or a bad romance could be written by I. Well, it's a bad romance could be written by me. So there you go. That's how we fix that. Lady Gaga. Now here is a fantastic punctuation chart for you. I am not going to read through all of those, but I did find it and wanted to share it with you because it's a super cool chart. It breaks things down into terms that we all can understand, I think. So, and it's pretty, it's colorful. Who doesn't like a colorful chart? So there's that super awesomeness for you. Now, oh, this is about the grossest thing I ever saw. Not just this one, but some coming up. But unnecessary punctuation is very disturbing. Employees must wash hands. So anytime you're putting quotation marks around a word that you're putting emphasis on, you are effectually creating sarcasm. So employees must wash hands means it is suggested and not required. How about you matter to us? Would you like to buy some beer? How about some new underwear? Does that feel safe and healthy? You could get some fresh pizza to go with your beer. How about no? Now, this one I don't understand. Is it a real fire alarm? I'm getting the feeling this is not where you want to go if there's a fire in the building. Okay. Let's say you're taking a long drive down some backcountry road and it's like you got to go to the bathroom and there's nowhere to stop. Nowhere, no towns. This is Highway 48 from Bristow down to Holdenville. There's nothing. Nothing. It's a 2-lane road. You think you're hearing banjos all over the place. There's like a little podunk gas station that may or may not still be open. So you stop there just on the off chance there's going to be somebody to let you go to the restroom. You get the key and you have to go around to the back of the gas station because that's how you used to get into the bathrooms in these places. They weren't inside all fancy like at Quick Trip. This used to be you stopped in, you got the key, you walked around the building and you went inside. So you walk into this bathroom and you shut the door behind you before anybody else comes in because you've seen all those horror movies, right? And there on the wall is some lotion. No thanks. No thanks. I don't want any of that. I got some hand sanitizer in the car. I'm good. Thank you. Now, oh, don't you love memes? Memes are all over. They're all over. And I'm telling you what, I don't share very many of them on social media because they are always wrong. Not that what they have to say, the general idea is wrong, but the spelling is wrong and the grammar is wrong. Now, because of my profession, and not just because of my profession, but because of who I am, I cannot go around spreading this destruction of the English language on purpose, not on my social media. Now, putting it in a PowerPoint, that's a completely different thing. We're doing this whole grammar lesson here. Like, I'm trying to help you realize how much of this is out there in the world so you can start paying attention and you can be rising above it. But this is normal every day. It's on your Facebook, every social media site, TikTok, I don't care what it is. Grammar is being trounced. And we just see it and go, oh, yeah, that's how you say that. Okay. No. Anyway, here it is. A lot of men and women stay single because they tired of giving their everything and ending up with nothing. They tired. They are tired because they are tired. So you could say they're, THEY', or you could say they are and spell out the two words. Also, a lot is two words. A lot. Like you would say a little, a bunch, a lot, a few. A lot is two words. So anyway, memes. Be careful of memes. Be careful of fonts. Fonts can change everything about a sentence or a paper. Font matters. It's the difference between I'll always find you or I'll always find you. Now, this is just a freebie. This makes me giggle. Of course, all of this makes me giggle. I think you at this point you're like, okay, I get it. But this was from like a year ago when this whole Bernie and Mittens thing came out, and somebody sent this to me, and I just about died. Raindrops on roses and whiskers on kittens, bright copper kettles and Bernie and Mittens. Oh, anyway, moving on. Now, if you need something to do this weekend, like you are just completely out of things to occupy yourself because we haven't really gotten full-fledged into homework yet, might I suggest that you spend a little time watching Jack's films. Specifically, Your Grammar Sucks. So if this pops up here, we're going to watch this episode of Your Grammar Sucks, and I hope you enjoy it. There are many, many, many of these out there that you can watch, and it's just the reason I share it is because grammar is in trouble. The internet is assisting us to destroy the effectiveness of our language, communication skills, understanding one another, using appropriate professional writing communications. It's like just going out the window on a regular basis, and the internet's helping it do that. And so this guy, Jack, on the right, some of you probably know who he is, but he's come along and he's just like making fun of bad grammar in the hopes of helping you stop using it incorrectly. So I'm going to click and see if it wants to start. It doesn't want to start. Oh, I'm going to be real sad if this doesn't open up for us. It is not wanting to. I feel like the video that I pulled up earlier started. Why is this one not? You may just have to watch this on your own. Let me try something. I'm going to pop out of here real quick. Pop back in. Did that make a difference? No, it didn't. Well, how very sad. Let's see, let's try this. Oh, there we go. All right, I'm going to do this. And we're going to watch a little Your Grammar Sucks. This is episode 90.
Hey guys, thank you so much for coming in on such short notice. As you know, this corporation needs a new slogan. Something witty, something catchy, something smart.
Weren't there two other guys here that did this before us?
Yeah, what happened to them?
I'd rather not talk about it.
Leginomite. Soul Plice.
What is wrong with you two?
This guy's ducking G hellacious.
Markiplier, why don't you start us off?
All girls with 15 must sex by me.
Oh god.
I'm only human, and I breathe when I fall down.
Not again.
Not to be fronted, but why is your black?
So stalked right now.
That's racist, shirt.
No, don't smile like that.
Taylor Swift, you suck now, and you know my uncle.
Game isn't a Japanese.
I'm a juggalette, down with the clown 110%, whoop whoop!
Nope!
You should get a granny. You are really good if it comes to music. Please get it someday.
Why?
Where's Dildo?
How are you guys not getting this?
Anyone else find this arpusingly funny?
No, nobody else finds this irrepressingly funny.
Guys who take dislike are unhumatic.
I hate cliffhangers. Kids react to dial-up internet.
My name is Jason, and I am a friend of Sean Dominic, and I think we should get talk sometime.
Good, now your ass got our own life instead of everyone else's.
There's a bathroom in Feelings when I hear this song.
I'm looking for a male stripper for my sister's birthday. Please send stats and pics. You may have to audition.
That's not a slogan.
Traditional marriage is God's way, anything else is abomination.
All raped in a taco.
Please stop.
Like mice to taz if you like mice to taz.
I tried so hard and got so far, but in the end, it doesn't even matter.
Jack, I can explain. I was playing this game, and when the thing from the picateur, I was trying to click and leave because I looked at it, but it wouldn't, and it is 4 in the morning, and IT came up, and I hate them.
What you just said, Markiplier, makes me want to chug some bleach. So, if you'll excuse me.
Jack, can I just say one thing? What color do you choose when you walk in the dark? If you choose black, how much percentage can you find the exit? There are lights full of colors. What are these beautiful colors represent? Also, where's Dildo?
Get out now.
Yeah,
Yep.
right.
Oh, that's, yep.
I'm going to stop that there. It's funny. There are so many of those. I highly recommend, if you have nothing going on, to give those a watch. There are so many problems out there, so many grammatical errors, punctuation issues, spelling errors in abundance, so many. So what do? First of all, no excuses. How about that? Let's start with no excuses. I'm going to start out with my snow story again. Back in my day, there was no snow, but back in my day, I had a typewriter. It legitimately looked like this. Had this little bitty screen. Well, this was my second year of college. I had this one. So it had this little bitty screen where I could see like 4 or 5 words before they printed onto the paper. So I had a little bit of a chance to catch my mistakes and then not have to fix them all the time. But this was a typewriter. And so you would slide your piece of paper down into it and you would scroll it with that bar on the side. And so it'd pull the paper up to just in the right spot. So you had to measure like 1 inch down. So you knew that you were getting your paper in just the right spot. It didn't automatically set the margin for you. And so then you would start typing. Like, you have a keyboard. Yeah, okay, so that looks like it's a keyboard, but it's a typewriter. Your words are not typing on there and saving and anything, anywhere, on nothing. Just going onto that piece of paper. That is it. So that's what I had back in my day. And we're talking, this is just the early 90s, you guys. Now that may sound like a long time ago to you guys, but it wasn't to me. Like, okay, so I graduated from high school 33 years ago this May. That was yesterday. You guys just have no idea how fast life is about to go. You really don't have any clue. But it's okay. I'm just going to kick back and watch. It'll be fun. 33 years ago, I went to college with a typewriter. Now, anybody know who this is? I mean, obviously right now you can't like raise your hands or anything and be like, yeah, I know, it's the Monkees. Well, duh, it says Monkees. But the Monkees were like a boy band back in the day. Like when I was a little girl, I watched the Monkees and they had a lot of songs out like Cheer Up Sleepy Jean. Oh, what can it mean to a daydream believer and a homecoming queen? So there was that, and there was a bunch of other songs, and I loved them. They had their own TV show. They were super cool. So naturally, when I had children, they needed to love the Monkees too. So I played a lot of the Monkees music for my kids. We watched the Monkees show. And my daughter, when she was 16, she's 25 now. When she was 16, she had the biggest crush on Mike Nesmith. Now, he's the one in the green hat. And she just thought he was the cutest. And she had the biggest crush on Mike Nesmith. And I'm like, honey, he's 60 years old now. She'd be like, I don't care. And I'm like, I do. You're 16. Anyway, just a funny story. So Mike Nesmith, this is him, right? Okay. So here's a super cool story. You're like, you went from typewriter to the Monkees. What does this have to do with anything? Well, I'm about to tell you. So Mike Nesmith had a mother, much like most of us. Here's Betty Nesmith, the mother of Mike Nesmith of the Monkees. Well, Betty Nesmith wasn't known for just being the mother of Mike Nesmith. Betty Nesmith saved my life in college many times, and she doesn't know it. But she knew that she was doing a good thing when she invented liquid paper. Dun dun dun. She invented the miracle in a little jar that has a little brush in it like nail polish that has correction fluid on it. And so you would take your little brush, and when you made a mistake with your typewriter, you would scroll your paper up, put a little bit of the liquid paper on the mistake, wait for it to dry, blow on it a little bit, wait a little longer, blow on it a little more. I never waited long enough. I'm so impatient. You just have no idea how many pieces of paper I wasted. So anyway, that's what I had back in my day. Typewriter and a bottle of liquid paper. I didn't have a computer. I didn't have any of the stuff that you have today. So obviously for me, I look at everything that you have and go, why would you turn in a paper full of mistakes when you have free resources through Microsoft Word editor where you can fix all of those before you turn it in? Why would you not use that? Why would you want to not sound professional all the time? I don't understand that. Like for me, making the grade, being the best, I'm very competitive. I'm going to be top notch. I like that. So I have this like thing in my head, like it's part of my personality that I think everybody should want to be just like me. And my husband will be like, Daisha, not everybody's like you. They just don't have those same goals. And I'm like, but why not? Why not? When we have these tools and they're at our disposal, why would we not want to use them? So Grammarly is super fantastic. And I've given you a walkthrough on Blackboard. There's a handout that walks you through how to set it up. Let's look at why it's cool. So here I pulled up the text of The Man Who Loved Flowers. Grammarly gave it a 92. Grammarly gave it a 92. No, I'm lying to you. This is Editor. Editor gave it a 92. So we're going to look at Editor first. So Editor, this is the Editor screen. Once you click Editor in Word, this pops up on the right. It gives you a score, and then it tells you below here you have 3 spelling mistakes, 8 grammatical mistakes, 3 conciseness mistakes, 3 formality mistakes, punctuation conventions 4, etc. Now, do you see this little doohickey right here, this little circle with the big giant arrow pointing to it? That's your Grammarly extension. If you've added Grammarly to Word, that's your Grammarly extension. We're going to look at that in just a second. So right now, Editor, we've run Editor on the paper, and it shows a 92 for the grade. Now, if we click on the little bubble, the little Grammarly bubble, it's going to pop up the mistakes. 82 mistakes that Grammarly finds. Grammarly finds 82 mistakes in here. And so you click on it and it pops up one mistake at a time. It shows you what it is. You can click accept or dismiss. Whatever it says there that needs to be done, it's going to give you the option, and you can just click on which one you want to accept. Now, you can also go to the Grammarly website, which I highly recommend. This is super cool. So if you come to the Grammarly website in your own account, you can click New and copy paste your text into here, or you can click Upload and upload your paper into here. So I believe I clicked Upload. And here is that same text of The Man Who Loved Flowers. Same exact text that was run in Word's editor. Grammarly gives it an 84. So Editor gave it a 92. Grammarly gives it an 84. I told you they're different. They're both good, but Grammarly finds more. It's Grammarly Premium finds more. So it's very much the same as Editor. It gives you all of the suggestions down the side of the paper, and you just go through them one at a time. Click fix or click dismiss all the way down. Boom, your score keeps going up until you get it to a 100, and then it saves your paper, puts it back into Word corrected, and you move on with your day. Super cool. Again, if you had these resources, I just don't understand why you wouldn't use them. So Microsoft Office 365, download it from MyTCC. Words editor is awesome. But keep in mind, Grammarly Premium finds more. The Words editor is still going to do you proud. It is still going to do a good job. So here it gave the paper a 92. You go over here, you click on spelling, and it'll show you the spelling errors, and you can fix those. And then you click on grammar, and it'll show you the grammar errors, and you can fix those. So Grammarly score was an 84, Word score was a 92, same paper. Keep that in mind. Grammarly does a better job, but both are great. What do? I use them both. I do, but I'm a nerd like that. I get it. That I'm a nerd. I get it. But I don't know. I just think it'd be a really cool thing if everybody wanted to do their best. So I run both personally. I'll run editor first and then Grammarly, and I've been known to then go back and run editor again. But that's on my manuscripts especially. I will run multiple times on my manuscripts. Catch as much as possible. It just takes minutes to do it. Absolute minutes to take your paper from a C or a D to an A. Minutes. Just minutes. Minutes of your time. I don't know, makes sense to me. Pay attention to all the squiggle lines as you edit. So Word and Google both, they will automatically populate little squiggle lines in your text as you're writing in places that it immediately recognizes need to be corrected or fixed. It's so interesting to me. I'll pull up a student's paper in Word. Like if I start grading your paper in Blackboard and I get like the second paragraph in and it's just a mess. There are so many grammatical mistakes already. Like I've already come across 10. I'm like, no, So I will pull it off of Blackboard and I will open it up in Word. Guarantee it will be full of squiggle marks that you did not pay attention to. Guaranteed, hands down, it will be full of squiggle marks. And I sit there going, why? And so generally what I will do, and I will either put it into Grammarly or I will run editor on it. I'll screenshot it and send it back to you and give you the appropriate grade that either editor or Grammarly gave to you, probably the Grammarly grade. Just takes minutes. Absolutely takes minutes. And honestly, kind of how I feel about it. Like, you're not going to take the time to fix it, but you expect me to take the time to go in and mark all of your, no, you probably don't want me to. You probably just want me to leave it be and not mark everything. Well, I can't do that. I'm going to mark everything. And so, yeah, it's kind of how that works. This whole teacher student thing, you know, that's kind of how that goes. So pay attention to all the squiggle lines as you edit. Read your work out loud, and you're probably going to be like, ew, I don't want to do that. What if someone hears me? Oh, who cares? Who cares what other people think? Shame on them if they think anything. You're just trying to do the best job you can. Here's the thing about reading your work out loud is you will hear mistakes that your eyes will never see. Your ears will hear things your eyes cannot see. Hands down, every time. Stephen King will tell you to read your work out loud. Chuck Wendig, who we're going to talk about in a couple of weeks, he'll tell you to read your work out loud. Any writer, any textbook is going to tell you, read your work out loud. Who cares what people think? If anybody's thinking bad things about you, that's because they've got a problem inside their self. You're bettering you. Who cares what they think? You do you. You get the best grade that you can. That's what's awesome. That makes you awesome. So at this point, we can go, right? Yeah, super cool. To your homework. Yeah. You're going to write a summary of the week's 2 lecture. If you want to put anything from week 1 in there as well, it's totally fine. 200 word minimum. Let's go. Let's take a look at this on Blackboard because it is on Blackboard. So we need to actually look at it there. So I'm going to screen share and put us into Safari. I don't think I have us open yet for class, any of my classes. So I'm going to have to get this open. It's going to take just a second. Please bear with me. Apologize for the length of this. Sort of. I sort of apologize for the length of this. I knew that was going to happen. Now, let's change the password. This keyboard is so much smaller than my other one. It's hard to type on. Update password. Yeah. How exciting to be waiting like this, right? I'm going to click over here. I think we'll go ahead and we'll pull up the online class. It's not going to matter which class it is. It's all the same assignment. Okay. Here it is. Write a summary of the week's lectures from weeks 1 and 2. You do not have to answer the following questions exactly, but let them give you ideas about what to talk about in your summary. What stood out to you? What was something new to you? What was something you might not have known but view in a new way? What is something you might like to know more about? 200-word minimum. Respond to at least 5 classmates' posts until you respond to 5 classmates' posts. This discussion thread will not submit for grading. So this is done through a discussion thread. This is not an MLA format paper. This is a discussion thread. So you will click summary of week 2's lecture, and you will post in there 200 words minimum answering your summary of the week. What stood out to you? What might you have learned? What are you taking away from this? What's something you already knew, but maybe you saw it in a different light now, etc., etc. That's what we're doing for homework this week. So, how exciting. Let me go ahead and take us back out. We made it. That was quite a little bit of a long lecture. I'm excited to save this to the computer and see how long it actually is. But it's one that I know will be beneficial for you. If you have any questions, as always, feel free to text me. I do like to be available to answer any questions or concerns. Just feel free to reach out. So you guys have a super awesome day, whatever day it is when you're watching this. And yeah, don't be strangers. Okay. All right. Talk at you later.